Welcome back to another episode of Coding with Culp, in which we don't actually do any coding. So today I've got something kind of fun. We are going to build a handheld video game device, an emulator essentially. I've long been into gaming. My first experiences with gaming was probably around 1979. We were in an airport and I played Space Invaders and Asteroids for the first time, and I was hooked. And so my first video game console was an Atari 2600, and then from there went to Commodore 64, the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and then the PC. And I was primarily a PC gamer for quite a while, so I skipped quite a few of the consoles in between there, such as the Nintendo GameCube and a few others. But now I pretty much play all of them. And I've long been in search of the perfect handheld emulator, retro gaming emulator. And I'm going to tell you that the perfect emulator does not exist, unfortunately. I've used a lot of them, built a lot of them, bought a lot of them, and they all have usually something wrong with them. So, you might encounter one that's got a great feel in the hands, but the software is terrible, or the screen's terrible. Or you find another one that feels great in the hands, but the software is terrible, the emulators aren't very good, or, the price is outrageous. And so I have long been in search of the perfect retro gaming handheld device. And though the device we're going to build today isn't perfect, we're going to go through some of the problems with it, or problems I have with it. It is probably my favorite. And what we're going to do is we are going to build a Game Boy Advanced shaped retro gaming emulator, and it's going to be run off of a Raspberry Pi. So the first thing we have to unbox is from a company called Freeplay. And they had a Kickstarter quite a few years ago to design a replacement electronics board that used the Raspberry Pi. Oh, excuse me, I had to step away for a second. They used Raspberry Pi in place of the electronics of a standard Game Boy Advance. And so this right here, the Game Boy Advance, is actually one of my favorite handheld devices. I love the way it feels in the hand. This is a really old Game Boy Advance. It's pretty beat up. In another video, we're going to refurbish this, but I'll set that aside for now. So what the Freeplay came with, let me take that out. That's my receipt. What you get, a card there. And so inside everything is packaged up, and I bought this with a battery. We'll go over that in just a minute. Alright, so right there is the circuit board, and it runs off of a Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 3 Plus compute module, so it has the same computing power as a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. And you can get it in a few different configurations. For button configurations, I got mine configured for what's called Boxy Pixel. Boxy Pixel case, which we're going to unbox in just a second. On the back, we've got our various ports such as USB, micro SD card. I believe that's for powering. And this right here is I can never remember if it's either micro or mini HDMI. One of these days I'll learn the difference between those two ports. Got volume here. Headphone connector. Speaker. And this right here is the connector for the LCD. In addition, I bought it with a rechargeable battery. I think this is 2,000 milliamps. We'll see just how much power we'll get out of that, or how much playing time we get. And then right here is the screen. Let's go ahead and open up that screen. There we go. All right. Oh, I forgot. You get a glass lens, not a plastic, but a glass lens. Got the Freeplay logo on there. We're actually not going to use this one. The Boxy Pixel case can actually use the full extent of the, or the full size of the LCD. Normally, it doesn't use the full size of the LCD. And so that's it right there. Normally it doesn't use the full size of the LCD, and so the glass lens is designed to basically mask off some of the screen. All right, so that's everything from Boxy, or from Freeplay. Now, everything that you see here, and I know you're probably going to balk at the price, but the Freeplay CM3 do-it-yourself kit with battery, screen, and everything was $159.99. Now, in reality, that's all you really need to spend if you want to put this, or put it, into a Game Boy Advance case. You're probably going to want to buy a new case, but those are fairly inexpensive, somewhere in the neighborhood of $10. With replacement buttons and stuff, you're probably looking at $20 more. So you can build yourself a complete handheld for less than $200, probably about $170, $180. You've got to do some trimming of the case in order to fit the screen in there. It's not too bad. I've built one before. It took me about an hour or two to do all the trimming that I needed. I just used a X-Acto knife like this with a couple different types of blades and some little cutters like this. But that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to put ours into, let me put all this back here, into a case from a company called Boxy Pixel. Oh, by the way, shipping. I can't remember exactly what I paid for shipping on this, but it was super, super quick. Literally, I ordered it, and I swear it was like 5 days later, it was sitting in my mailbox. So it came pretty quick, and I think it shipped out the same day that that I ordered it, either the same day or the next day. All right. What I have here is from a company called Boxy Pixel. What Boxy Pixel does is they make a number of products, but one of the big products they make are aluminum cases for different retro game machines. And they make a case specifically, is there anything in here? They make a case specifically, yes, we'll get into this in just a minute. I'll put those aside. They make a case specifically for the Freeplay. And when you order your Freeplay CM3, you actually have to specify that you're going to be putting it in a Boxy Pixel case. So as you can see, here is the new glass lens that I'll use, and it's got a much bigger area. Whoa! I'll use it as long as I don't break it. It's got a much bigger area that you can see through. All right, and then we have the actual case. Actual aluminum case. And I ordered mine in purple. They come in a variety of cases, or colors, excuse me. But it seems like they're always out of the colors that I want. Bag of screws for securing the case. So here we go. This is just super nice. It's precision machined aluminum and anodized. And like I said, mine's anodized in purple. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that is so nice. I don't know if this can really show how nice it is. It's incredibly well machined. Looks beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful here. And this is the top. I'll have to look up what I paid for this. Because I don't remember, there's no receipt in the box. It was expensive. I'm almost positive the case itself was $69, $70 for the case, and then I got some extras that added on. So this was the case at $69. It feels so smooth, and what I really like about it when you build one of these is it's got some weight. It's got a little bit of heft to it. Unlike maybe many people, I don't like handhelds that are super featherweight, because, I don't know, they just don't feel right. I like a little bit of weight in the handheld, and that feels really, really nice. So I did get a few other things. I got some replacement silicon buttons, and the silicon or the plastic buttons. I ordered, here it is. I ordered machined aluminum buttons to replace the buttons on the case. So I got them in black. You can get them in a variety of different colors. I thought the black would actually look pretty nice on here. Let's stick that in there. So I thought the black, when it was all said and done, would look pretty nice on the purple here. And the start and select buttons are going to be red. And here are the other 4 buttons. So there's one for the A, B, X, and Y. There we go. One thing I don't like, I wish they do, but you know, it's just a nitpick, is I wish they would etch the A, B, X, Y into the tops of the buttons. You can put little stickers on them or something if you want, I suppose. All right. And then the final thing I got is you will need, if you're going to do it this way, you're going to need some plastic buttons. So you're going to need at least the L and R button. So that's plastic L and R button there. And I believe, there's the other button. I believe, oh, maybe not. Check something here. Oh, I'm trying to put it on backwards. Okay, no, you don't. I didn't know if you needed the side buttons, but it comes when you order the plastic buttons. But looks like you don't. All right. So I believe this was $69 for this right here, and then it was a few more dollars for the other stuff, just the plastic buttons and the replacement silicon pads, and I think this was $10. So I paid. I'll get an exact price when I'm building it and let you know. So overall, I paid less than $100 for all the stuff in Boxy Pixel, which makes it a pretty expensive build when you take a look at $150 for the CM3 and then about $100 for all the stuff. So you're looking at $250. But I really like this particular emulator, and I think it's, for me, I think it's worth it. You know, worth is one of those things that can only be determined by the person using the product. And I like it. I know there's tons of other emulators out there, but I like this one. So let me get everything situated and let's go through building this thing. All right, here we are. I've got everything laid out and ready to go. So we're going to take this step by step. Assembling this is really easy. Probably won't take any longer than, total of 30 minutes, probably even less. If you're an experienced builder and you know what you're doing, you can probably assemble this thing in 15 minutes. It's really simple. I've got everything laid out. I got the back of the case, the top of the case, the CM3 board, the screen. I didn't go through the specs of the screen. If I'm not mistaken, the screen is a 3.2 inch with a resolution of 320 by 240. Once again, if I had any complaints about this, I've got a couple and I'll go through them, but it's the screen. It displays games just fine. It's backlit. Your games are going to look fine. If you're playing something, down on the, NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance level, it's going to look just fine. But text and the interface tends to be blurry and hard to read. And at my age, 51, and my eyes not what they used to, it does make it a little bit difficult to read. Got the battery here. And I forgot there's actually a heatsink. The old Boxy Pixel case couldn't take the heatsink, but this one I can. It comes with the CM3 stuff with the CM3, and I didn't unbox it. In the unboxing video came in a little plastic bag with like a keychain type thing. I've got all my screws laid out here. and I've done a little bit of prep work already, so let me go through that with you. So all I've really done is I've installed the black buttons here. Notice, if you can see that, they go in such that these holes all face in towards the center. I installed the light pipe. That's something else I didn't mention when I unboxed because I think it fell out. In fact, for a minute I didn't think I had one. But that's okay. I was just going to pull one from an old Game Boy Advance. But I did. Ordered it from Boxy Pixel. And that light pipe transmits the light of the power LED to the front. Over here I have installed the silicon button pads. And so for this one, super simple for the start and select. Just goes in so that this flat area faces towards the LCD. All right, this one here is a little bit more complicated, but still not too bad. There is, first of all, let me take this out. Okay, this is the machined aluminum D-pad. All right, you're going to notice a little tab right there and another little peg right there. This goes in such that one of these holes right here lines up with that hole, and this hole on the top lines up with that peg right there. So we're just going to put that in and tap it down, and we're ready to go. I also put in the shoulder buttons. You don't have to put them in this step. You can put them in after you put down the motherboard. It doesn't matter. I like to put it down now, and they go in. So this right here is the L button. And I know you're probably saying, wait a minute, but this is the right side. But remember, we're working from the back, so it's reversed. Your L button is going to go on the right side right here. And you'll see a little hole right there that this peg right here goes in. And there's a little channel right here, little channel that the metal goes in. And so they take a little bit of finagling to get in. In fact, this might be the hardest part of the build, is getting these in. But once they're in, just make sure that you can press them. And I think we're good to go. All right, and then you'll do the same thing for this one on the side and put the light pipe in place. And so we're ready to go. We're now going to do the LCD screen. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the heatsink on in just a minute. We're going to turn this over, and we can go ahead and disconnect the speaker. It actually doesn't go here. We're just going to kind of take it out a little bit. Okay, there is a sticker on the back. Don't remove that sticker. Okay, so I'm going to move that to the side. There is on the LCD screen a couple small latches. And you're just going to take and pull those latches out. There we go. So you just take them and pull it out very slightly. Okay, the LCD screen is going to go in such that with the CM3 motherboard facing like this, it's going to go in like this, facing up. And all you got to do is slide this into the slot. Make sure it goes all the way in. It'll go all the way in. Might have to do this off camera. So you'll notice it's all the way in. None of the contacts are showing. None of the contacts are showing. Then what you'll do is you'll just take and you will push those clips back in. There we go. Nice and secured. Okay. Now, and I keep the protective film on the LCD until the very, very last minute. So it's now time to take that protective film off. Be very careful with the LCD. You don't want to bend it, break any pixels, etc. So now I'm going to take this, just going to flip it. This LCD is going to sit right in place right there. And there we go. Now, I've got to put the speaker in place also while I do this. So I'm going to take and pull out. It's now time to peel the sticker off. In reality, you don't actually have to peel this off if you don't want to. It's basically there to protect the underside of the motherboard from the metal of the speaker. Anyways, there's a spot for the speaker to go in. And everything should fit in there nice and snug. There we go. Check your shoulder buttons. Make sure that they're still in place. Feels good. Feels nice. Everything sits down nice and tight. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take and we are going to screw in or secure down the motherboard with the supplied screws. Okay, now we're going to install the power switch, and that should come in your plastic buttons that you ordered. And you're going to notice kind of a little indentation right here on the power switch. Not this part that holds the actual power switch. It's this little part down here at the very bottom. We're going to snip that off. There we go. So the power switch is going to look like this. Then all you do is you're going to take that and you're going to slide it right down into here. And you'll see this clips or surrounds the power switch. By the way, the three screws you should have put in was up here in the top right, this one right here, and then one in the top left. All right, the last thing we have to do, well, not the exact last thing, but the thing we have to do with the bottom is you're going to get some foam, okay? And what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of take it and fold it a few times. And you're going to place it, you might need to cut or trim it. You're going to place it underneath the LCD, and I'm going to cut or trim this one. It's a little bit big. All right, I think that'll work. Now we're going to install the heatsink. So we're just going to peel off the tape and stick it on the processor. There we go. All right, at this point, we have everything assembled except for the back. Before you put the back on, just make sure your buttons and everything are in place, and then place the back on. Make sure that it secures down nice and snug. Once again, make sure you're not touching that screen. In fact, you might want to go ahead and put the screen protector on. All right. Mine's all down. I'm going to test the buttons. They feel good. And so there are 4 screws we've put in. 1, 2, and then 2 up here in the top. I'm going to go ahead and put those screws in. You do the same thing. And then we'll install the glass lens protector if you haven't done that already. Okay, we are ready to put in the screen protector. Now remember, you're going to have 2 screen protectors. One of them says Boxy Pixel on it. That's the one you want to use. Don't use the other one. Let me see if I still got it. Yeah. Don't use this one that says Freeplay. Use one that says Boxy Pixel. You're going to notice that the Boxy Pixel has a much bigger screen area than the Freeplay. All right. So let's go ahead and put that in place. Careful that you don't touch the inside of the lens. You don't want to get your fingerprints on it. And if you've got a microfiber cloth, you can gently, very gently, clean the screen. I got a little smudge there, so I'm going to clean it. There we go. Get any dust off. Like I said, you want to be very gentle with it. Okay. So now we just remove this right here. Remove the sticky tape. I always have difficulty removing sticky tape. And in reality, you can do this step at any time. I just saved it till last. In reality, it might be better to do it earlier. All right, so now we're gonna put it in place here. All right, there we go. I had a little bit of difficulty getting it lined up properly. Make sure it's nice and on there. And then we can remove the glass protector. Ta-da! There we go. So here it is, completely built. Love the way it looks. Absolutely love the way it looks and the way it feels. Like I said, it's got some heft. In other words, it's got a little bit of weight to it. It's not too heavy, but it's not too light. I don't like handhelds that are feather light. They just don't feel right in my hand. Buttons are really nice. The shoulder buttons are really nice. Nice and clicky. The D-pad's okay. It's not a great D-pad, but at the same time, it's not an awful D-pad. It's serviceable. The one thing I don't like about the buttons, these buttons right here, listen very carefully. They're loose, and the reason is they don't make, when the thing's upside down, they don't make contact with the button pads. And so they're maybe, I don't know, 1-2 millimeters short. If they were just 2 millimeters longer, they'd sit right on those pads and they wouldn't be as loose. They feel okay. I mean, they're not terrible. I just wish that they weren't as loose. You can probably fix that. I've never tried, but you can probably fix it by taking maybe a little bit of balsa wood, some 1 or 2 millimeter balsa wood, and gluing it, epoxy most likely, onto the bottoms of the buttons, and then they make contact with the button pads, and they wouldn't be as loose as they are. But other than those little minor nitpicks, it's awesome. Like I said, this is my favorite handheld emulation device of all time. And there's a lot cheaper options out there. I just really, really like this option right here. A couple of things. So I'm embarrassed to say this, but I actually had to disassemble it because I did exactly what I told you not to do. I got fingerprints on the underside of the glass as I was installing it. Like I said, I had a little bit of trouble lining it up, and so I got some fingerprints on the inside. It was super easy to fix. I just took it apart. Great thing about this is, 4 screws, and it's apart. And I just used a microfiber cloth and a tiny little bit of cleaning fluid on the underside, and I cleaned it off. So the other thing was my power switch was stuck. It would not move. And never force anything. When you get this thing together, if your buttons don't click, your power switch doesn't move or something, do not force anything. You don't want to break anything. There's a reason why. So take it apart. It turns out, so these plastic buttons that you buy are made from all sorts of different manufacturers. And there's a little bit of variation. And my power switch was actually a little bit too tall. And so when you screwed the case down, it was fine until you screwed the case down tightly. And then it was essentially smushing the top of the power switch, preventing it from moving. I just took a little bit of sandpaper and I sanded it down and until it moved nice and smooth and fit in there. So not a big deal. Okay. We're going to set up the software. We're going to go over to my computer. I'm going to show you how to do it on Windows. The process is actually very similar on Mac OS. A couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need, of course, an SD card. I'd recommend 32 gigabytes or larger. It depends upon how many ROMs and stuff you're going to install. You're going to need a SD card reader if you don't have a built-in SD card reader on your computer. And finally, you're going to need a wireless dongle. You can actually order one, I believe, right from Freeplay when you order their Freeplay CM3 kit. Oh, one other thing. You're probably going to need a cheap USB, what do you call it? USB port extender, USB hub. Oh my God. I'm getting old. You're going to need a cheap USB hub. We're going to set it up so that you can download your ROMs wirelessly to this. And because of that, we're going to need to plug in both the keyboard and the mouse at the same time, or keyboard and the Wi-Fi dongle at the same time. We only have one USB port, so you're going to need a cheap USB hub in order to do that. So let's head over to the computer and let's get started. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to download the CM3, the Freeplay CM3 Retropie image. We're going to write it to an SD card. We're going to download all the software we need to do that. In addition, we're going to prepare a USB drive. As I said, I'm going to show you two ways to transfer ROMs to your system. One is via wireless, and the other is via a USB stick. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, and we'll go over that. All right. Here I am on the Freeplay Tech website. In order to get to the image, you're going to come over here to Support, Setup. You're going to come over here to we have the CM3, the Compute Module 3, and we're going to click on the Freeplay CM3 Build Guide. If we scroll down just a little bit, we get this hardware and software verification. And there's a link down here. Use the CM3 SD card image file set at this Google Drive link. So I'm going to click on it and click there. That brings us to all the current or latest SD card images. You can click on Archive to see the older ones, but the one we are concerned with is this one right here. Freeplay CM3. Remember, we don't want the 0. This is a CM3. And I'm simply going to highlight it. And then I'm going to come over to here. I got 3 dots. Now, I think it actually depends upon whether you are logged into Google or not as to how you download it. I've got these 3 dots up here for more actions. I click here and I'm going to click download. It's going to download it. I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to do that. I think sometimes there is a icon over here that you can use to download it. It depends upon whether you're logged into Google or not. So this will go to your download folder. And then we need to get Balena Etcher. You'll go to this website right here, and I'll have links to the websites below. balena.io/etcher. And you're going to download for your system. I think it chooses for you, and it's usually pretty good. So you'll just click download and download it, and then install it. I'm assuming you know how to install software, so I'm not going to go through that. Once that's done, and you've installed the Balena Etcher, what you do, put your SD card in your SD card reader and start up Balena Etcher. And I've already got it started right here. So I'll click on it right there. So you'll start Balena Etcher. You're going to choose your image. So I'm going to click right here. Whoops. Remove that. Okay. We're going to flash from file because we downloaded that file. So I'm going to click there. and I'm going to find that image in my downloads. So let's see, I've got a few. It's right here, Freeplay CM3 2005 1201.img. I also downloaded their test image, and that's exactly what it is. They're testing stuff. It's the newest image. Some things may or may not work. So I'm going to flash the latest image, Freeplay CM3 2005 1201.img. I'm going to double click. Then you're going to select your target. Make sure you get this right. For example, I've got two targets here. One's a SanDisk Cruiser USB device. That's actually a USB drive that I'm going to show you what you need to do in order to get it set up to transfer ROMs back and forth. Remember I said you need, I recommend 32 gigs or larger. I'm just doing this as a test, so I'm just writing it to a 4 gigabyte drive. It does fit, but you won't be able to put too many ROMs on it. So I'm going to select the correct device to write to, and I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click Flash. I'm going to say yes. All right, this takes a while to flash the image. But once it's done, what I want you to do is put it into your CM3 in the SD card slot. And to turn your CM3 on, you're going to press the power button and you're going to hold it in for 4 to 5 seconds. The green power LED will come on when you can let go. So you press the power button, you will hold that power button in for about 4 to 5 seconds. The green light comes on. Stay held for about a second and then let go. The first time I ever built one of these, I thought my CM3 was broken because I hit the power button and nothing happened. Hit the power button and nothing happened. And I didn't realize that you had to hold it in. So that's actually a common error, common mistake that people make. Okay, the other thing I want to do is I want to prepare the USB drive that I have there. And so let me come over here to my file manager. I'm going to find that USB drive. I named it ROMs. If it's not formatted, you may very well want to format it. I right click and come down here. Oh yeah, there it is. Format. I've formatted as FAT32. I believe either FAT32 or EXFAT works. FAT32 or EXFAT. I've formatted mine as FAT32. I gave it the volume label of ROMs, and you can quick format. I'm going to go ahead and format it again just for the heck of it. Alright, so it just takes a moment to format if you do quick format. Now let me go back to my file manager. So what you want to do is on this USB drive, you want to right click and do a new folder. And you want to call that folder Retropie. All lowercase, just exactly like this. Retropie. Okay, I think we're ready to go. As I said, you're now going to put in your SD card. I'm going to switch back over to my workbench and show you how to set everything up. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you real quick. Oh, and there is another software we got to download. Remember how I told you my power switch didn't fit? Freeplay even talks about it right here in their build documents. It says install the power switch plastic into the groove in the housing. Note the power switch may require it to be shaved a very small amount if you find it's too tight after the front rear are assembled. And says see below for the highlighted surface. And that's exactly what I had to do. I took some fine grained sandpaper and just sanded it down on a flat surface. Now, with that said, I actually broke my power switch, this thing right here, and I don't have a replacement, so I've got to order some new buttons, but the Freeplay still works just fine. What happened was I was messing around and had it all taken apart, and I dropped the power switch and couldn't find it, and I'm rolling around with my big rolly chair, and I ran over it and it smashed and mangled it. So but that's okay, I can still get by until I order me some new plastic buttons. I knew I should have ordered more than one set. Alright, the other software we need is called WinSCP.
and I'll put a link down below. This is going to allow us to connect remotely to the Freeplay to the device. The other software we're going to need is called WinSCP. It's a file transfer utility. SCP stands for Secure Copy. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to transfer files back and forth from our PC to the CM3. And that's the way I actually prefer to transfer ROMs. It's fairly quick, and it's very visual. You can see when the ROMs transfer. The problem with the USB method is that you don't know when all the ROMs have transferred, or it's hard to tell. Okay, let's get over to the workbench and let's get this thing all set up.
And here we are, booted up for the very first time. As a point of note, when you first turn this on, or whenever you turn it on, you slide the power button to the right and you hold it in for about 5 seconds until this green LED comes on, and then it's going to begin the boot up process. When I first built one of these a couple years ago, and I used a plastic shell that you had to trim, I didn't know that. And so after I got it all built, I hit the power button and this LED turned white and nothing happened. It turned off. And I did that 5, 6, a dozen times, and I thought I'd broken it or it was defective. And it turned out all you got to do is hold that power button in for about 5 seconds or so until this green light turns on. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to configure our controller. We're then going to set some display properties, which I've actually already set those display properties, but I'm going to go back through with you. And then we're going to set up for Wi-Fi. So let's get our controller set up. What you're going to do, you're going to press the start button, and you're going to get a menu that I know you can't see on camera, but you're going to scroll down to the next to last option, which is configure input, and then press your action or your A button, which should be this button right here. And it's going to ask if you want to configure it, and you're going to say sure. And then it's going to ask you to press and hold any key on your controller. So I'm just going to press and hold the A button, and then it's going to switch into the configuring menu. It just tells you what to press, and just press those buttons. So we got D-pad up, D-pad down, left, right, start, select, A button, so you can do your A, B, X, Y buttons. So A, B, X, Y, your left shoulder, and then your right shoulder. Now we don't have left trigger, right trigger, or any thumbsticks. So if you have something, or you don't have a particular button, just hold any button, and it's going to skip it. So you just keep hold it down, and it's going to skip it. So I'm going to keep skipping until I get down to the what's called the hotkey button. And I'm going to stop because the hotkey's special, and you definitely need to define one. Okay, hotkey enable. So the hotkey allows you to exit out of ROMs when you're playing. And so we need to define a hotkey. The CM3 has a special hotkey. It is the power button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press in, and it should detect it as button number 8. This is a little bit tricky here. There we go. Yep, it detected it as button 8, and then I'm going to press OK. And we're back to the main menu. Now we've got our controls set up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Retropie menu, and we're going to set some display options. So I'm going to press A, and I'm going to scroll down to Freeplay options, and I'm going to press the A button, the action button. First thing I'm going to do, or have you do, is press the Freeplay brightness control. Press A, and this allows you to set the brightness. I like to set my brightness right around 40–50%, but do whatever's comfortable for you. Once you're done, press the A button, the action button, and it drops you back to here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change our display driver. When you first boot this up on the Boxy Pixel aluminum shell, the display doesn't actually take up the whole window. You're going to notice a noticeable border around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the display driver, and we're going to choose a non-cropped or a filled display driver. So we've got a bunch of different display drivers, and what we want to choose is the fast filled option. It says fills the entire display. So I'm going to press A, and it just tells you that it fills the entire display, and it's for use on such things as the Boxy Pixel that uses the entire display, and I'm going to say yes. And so it switches, and it's going to turn the system off, and so we're going to turn it back on. So once again, we're going to hit that power button for about 5 seconds until the green light comes on. There we go. I'll see you when it's booted up. Okay, we're back now. It's booted up completely. We're now going to change another display option, and then we're going to go in and set up some Wi-Fi settings. So let's go back to Retropie, press our A button, and we are going to go back down to Freeplay options, and we're going to go to the Freeplay optimal LCD settings. You may or may not want to use these optimal LCD settings. When you press it, it will tell you that this is primarily made for people that know that they are not going to use the HDMI out. For example, I never use the HDMI out on this simply because I've got a Retropie set up on my TV, so I don't really need to use this. I use this primarily for games that are meant to be handheld. Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, that sort of stuff. And so I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because I want to use that display driver. Okay, we've got all that set up. I'm going to press B. That's going to drop us back out to the Retropie menu. Now for these next steps, you're going to need a Wi-Fi adapter, USB Wi-Fi adapter, and you're going to need a keyboard. It helps tremendously if you have a USB hub. I actually have one, but it turns out it doesn't work properly for whatever reason. Whenever I plug it in, I can only use one device at a time. And I'm pretty sure it's because it's a USB 3 hub, and this isn't a USB 3 device. But anyways, it's hot swappable, so we can easily swap back and forth. It's not a big deal. Okay, now we're going to set up what's called SSH. SSH allows us to remote into the Freeplay CM3 via network, and allows us to transfer ROMs back and forth wirelessly, which is actually the way I prefer to do it. I'm going to show you another way, which is with a USB stick. So what you want to do is go into the Retropie menu, and you're going to scroll down to Raspberry Config. Right there it is. By the way, for these next steps, you're going to need a Wi-Fi adapter, and you're going to need a keyboard. It also helps tremendously if you have a USB hub. I happen to have a USB hub. It's just not working, and I believe it's because it's a USB 3 hub, and this is not a USB 3 device. So if you have a keyboard, if you plug it in right now, it's going to actually help out with the next couple of steps, but I'm going to show you how to do it without a keyboard. So you're going to go over here to Raspberry Config, and you're going to press your A button. You're going to scroll down to option number 5, which is interfacing. Now this is where things get a little bit weird. What you're now going to do is you're going to press right on your D-pad, and that goes and highlights select or finish. We want to highlight select. Now you would think you would then press A, but no. What we're going to do is we're going to press our B button, and it's going to bring us to the next menu. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to choose option number 2, which is SSH. I'm going to press the right button, or the right on the D-pad, to select select, and then I'm going to press B. If you've got a keyboard, you can plug it in, and it's a little bit easier on the keyboard. So I'm going to press B, and it's going to ask, would you like the SSH server to be enabled? And once again, I can select yes or no by going left or right. I'm going to select yes, and I'm going to press B, not A. And server is enabled, and I'm going to press OK. Oh, which is, once again, B. All right. Now I'm going to select finish and B, and that drops me back to Raspberry Config. Now it's time to set up Wi-Fi. So in order to set up Wi-Fi, all we're going to do is scroll all the way down, and there's an option for Wi-Fi. So I'm going to plug in my Wi-Fi adapter at this point. There we go. And now I'm going to select Wi-Fi. Okay. So we've got connect to Wi-Fi network. That's option number 1, and that's what we're going to choose. And it looks like it takes a moment. All right. Choose your Wi-Fi network. There's mine right there. And once again, press A. And now you have to enter your Wi-Fi key or password. I'm going to unplug my USB Wi-Fi adapter. And then I'm going to plug in a USB keyboard. And I'm going to type in my USB key or my Wi-Fi password. Okay, I've got my Wi-Fi password plugged in or typed in. However, I can't press OK yet. I don't have my Wi-Fi adapter in. So I'm going to unplug my keyboard and plug my USB Wi-Fi adapter back in. And now I can press A for OK. And this next part takes a little bit sometimes. It says connecting. So we'll see if we have connected. And I have. Now this is super important. What we need to do is we must write down this wireless IP. So for me it's 192.168.86.132. So you need to take a pen or something, write that down because we're going to need it in some of the next steps. So I'm going to exit out of here. So I'm going to hit exit. There we go. We are now ready to connect to this remotely. And so let's go get all the software set up and I will show you how to transfer ROMs.
Okay, now that we have everything configured, we're ready to start transferring ROMs to the CM3. My favorite way to do it is wirelessly because you know exactly what the progress is and exactly where everything's going and when it's done. So you're going to start up WinSCP that we downloaded earlier. And we are going to start a new session. The file protocol is SFTP, Secure FTP. The host name is going to be that number that I had you write down, your IP address on your network of your CM3. So for mine, it was 192.168.86.120, if I remember correctly. The username is going to be P-I. And the password is Raspberry, R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Login. And if I've done this right, there we go. We are logged in. So what we've got is on the left is our computer. And on the right is our CM3, our Freeplay CM3. And it's just a file manager / browser. On the CM3, I'm going to double click, or I'm going to click Retropie. And we've got 4 directories here, and one of them is ROMs. And you'll notice we've got all these directories for ROMs. All we have to do is click and drag across. So let's see here. Okay, I'm back. Had a little weird issue with WinSCP, where when I double click into my Documents folder, it wasn't showing me everything that was in that folder. I just moved my ROMs to my Downloads folder, and they should be there. So I'm going to double click on Downloads, and there they are, ROMs. Okay. The first thing I'm going to transfer is some Atari 2600 ROMs. So I'm going to double click over here on my on the CM3, Atari 2600, and then over here, Atari 2600. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight these like you would anything else and click and drag. And there they go. They copied. We're good to go.
So you can see that none of my ROMs are showing up. I downloaded some Atari 2600 ROMs and a few other system ROMs, and none of them are showing up. You don't actually have to completely reboot your system to get them to show up. If you press the Start button and you come over here down to Quit, and press your Action button, the A button. One of the options is Restart Emulation Station. So let's do that. And it wants to know if we really want to restart. I'm going to say yes. So it's going to restart Emulation Station, and there are the ROMs that I downloaded. So I got some Atari 2600, some Super Nintendo, some NES, and some Game Boy. So let's play something. Let's play something from the Atari 2600 age. Atari 2600 was my very first home console. We got it, I don't know, 1979, somewhere around there. So let's go into there. We're going to press A. And let's see, what have we got? Let's play Pac-Man. One of the most disappointing days of my life, sometime in 1981, was when we got Pac-Man. And I was a huge fan of Pac-Man in the arcade. When we got it on our 2600, it was a little bit of a disappointment. However, I did get so good with the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man that I could essentially play almost forever. Same thing with the Atari 2600 version of Defender. So let's go in, press A, and it starts up the emulator and should start up Pac-Man. There it is. Turn up the sound, press start, turn down the sound. You can probably see why I was disappointed as a kid in this version of Pac-Man. Oh, obviously I can't play forever anymore. Alright, now, when you're in a ROM and you want to escape the ROM, it's actually pretty simple. What you're going to do is you're going to press in on your power button for about a second, and then press the start button, and that will exit out of the ROM. There's some other options you can use when you hit that hotkey, and you can look them up online. I'll probably include a link, but you can activate such things as save states and a bunch of other stuff. All right, so now that we've got our ROMs to display and we know how to transfer it back and forth, let's take a look at how to do it via a USB stick, and then we'll be done.
The last thing I have to show you is how to transfer ROMs via USB. And I'm just going to lead you through it on my desktop. It's actually incredibly simple. All you have to do is get yourself a USB thumb drive. You're going to format it. You'll notice I have mine formatted as FAT32. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, okay, FAT32 is the best way for you to format it. But I think EXFAT also works. And NTFS may also work also. But I know absolutely, positively that FAT32 works. And most of the tutorials that you go through will tell you to format it as FAT32. But like I said, I actually think EXFAT and NTFS work also. I named it ROMs. You can name it whatever you want. But the most important part, besides formatting it as FAT32, is you're going to come over to the root of the drive, and it must be on the root of the drive, and you're going to create a folder called Retropie, exactly like this. It must be all lowercase, spelled exactly like this. No spaces, no dashes, all one word, Retropie, P-I-E. Once you've done that, you're going to eject it from your computer. You're going to plug it into your CM3. You're going to boot your CM3. Watch the activity light on your USB stick if it has one. Hopefully yours has one. Once that activity light has quit, that means it has copied over the directory structure on your CM3, the Retropie directory structure. And so then you can take it out of your CM3, and this process takes at least a few minutes initially. Plug it back into your computer, and when you double click, you should have your Retropie directory structure with your ROMs here, your ROM folder. Then all you have to do is, let me go over, I think mine's on documents. I can just come over to here. Let's go ROMs. Let's go, I think I've got Tetris in here. Yeah. So I'm just going to copy. I'm going to Control C. Copy. I'm going to come back over here to that USB stick. Double click on Retropie, double click on ROMs, and that was a Game Boy game. And I actually already copied it, but I just press Control V. I'm going to replace it, and it's going to copy it over. You would copy over all the ROMs that you want to. Then safely eject your USB stick from your computer, plug it back into your Freeplay CM3 and reboot the CM3. What it's going to do is it's then going to take a look on that Retropie folder on that USB stick, and it's going to download all of the ROMs that it finds onto the SD card of the Freeplay CM3. That process can take a while depending upon how many ROMs that you have. If you have a USB activity light on your thumb drive, that's great. Just watch that activity light. Once it stops, give it another minute or two, and then you can eject it, restart emulation station, and your ROMs should appear. If you don't have a USB activity light, not all USB thumb drives do. Some of the cheap models don't. You're just going to have to guess, which is why I prefer to transfer via Wi-Fi. I know exactly when the transfer is done. I can verify that the ROMs are on my Freeplay CM3, reboot emulation station, and it's all done. So it's that simple. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you through my final thoughts about what I think about it.
All right, final thoughts on the Boxy Pixel aluminum shell case plus the Freeplay CM3 circuit board or motherboard. I think you can tell throughout the whole video, I absolutely love this device. I've owned a tremendous number of handheld emulation devices. From this one to got the 1x8B Craft, the Retro Stone and the Raspberry Boy, the Retro Flag GPI, which I do like. I'm going to do video on that one. Cheap ones from Amazon, expensive ones from Amazon, the GPD handheld device, all kinds. I've spent lots and lots of money, but this one has always been my favorite, especially with the aluminum Boxy Pixel case. It's got really good heft. I like the way it feels in my hand. Now, it could be a little bit wider as an adult. It still feels a little bit cramped, but not nearly as cramped as some of the small ones that you can buy, like the GPI, or the Retro Flag GPI case and all sorts of others. It's got a really nice screen. Like I said, for games, it's great. Absolutely great. I do have some issues with text. Part of it could be my old eyes. But I do have some issues with the screen and text display. But other than that, the screen is awesome. It's nice. It's bright. It's configurable. It's got good sound. I like the way most of the buttons feel. Like, so the D-pad isn't great, but it also isn't terrible. If I was going to complain about buttons, it's going to be these over here. And I've showed you in the video, they're a little bit loose. And so I don't like exactly the way that they fit into the case. There's a couple millimeter air gap between the bottom of the button inside and the top of the button pad. I'm actually going to experiment. I am going to try and fill that in with maybe gluing a little bit of, 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter plastic in there, maybe some, balsa wood or something. I ordered the Freeplay CM3 from Freeplay, and oh my gosh, I swear it was 4 days later it was in the mail. It actually surprised me. Boxy Pixel took a little bit longer, but not much. I mean, I ordered it. It was a couple days later. It was shipped, and I had it probably 8 days later, somewhere around there, maybe less, maybe 7 days later. So both companies are great to deal with, great to work with. And battery life is actually quite a long time. It charges via a standard USB charger. So I couldn't ask for much more in a handheld device unless you were wanting to emulate in a handheld device something over Super Nintendo. So this thing is great, absolutely great at emulating Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, all of that. Anything from about the 16-bit generation on down, it's going to emulate great. When you get up into PlayStation and Nintendo 64 era, it really does start to bog down. You can overclock it. You can do a few things to try to get it to play Super Nintendo ROMs. But once again, there is no analog stick. There is an analog stick option. But it's not going to play Nintendo 64 ROMs very well. The other drawback to this is price. I will admit, it is a lot to pay for a handheld emulation device. But I think it's worth it. Worth is one of those things that only you can decide. The Freeplay device, the circuit board, which also came with the screen, came with a battery, basically came with everything except the shell and the buttons. I believe it's $159. It's on sale right now, if I'm not mistaken. The Boxy Pixel shell, I believe, was $69, and then I paid, I think, about $20 for the buttons. Can't remember the exact price. But all in all, you're looking at a price of around $250-ish complete. You can save some money by going with a plastic shell Game Boy Advance. This is actually a Game Boy Advance I'm going to be refurbishing in another video. Once again with a Boxy Pixel and IPS screen. But you can buy a plastic shell for, $10 on Amazon or something. And that's going to save you a tremendous amount of money. And it will come with buttons, or you can order buttons separately. You have to trim the case. There's quite a bit of trimming. The first one I ever built was a plastic one. Took me maybe an hour or more to get all the stuff trimmed, to get everything fit in there. But you'll save $60, $70 off that price, somewhere around in there, by going with a plastic shell. But anyways, if you've got any questions, put them down below. I, once again, would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. My channel's gonna be kind of a mixture of coding. In fact, I've got a version of Asteroids coming up in Pygame that I'm gonna show everybody how to make. That's gonna be probably easily a 4 or 5 part series, because although I say Asteroids, it's more of a modern version of Asteroids. I've got some beginner level Python coding come up, and I'm also going to focus on retro tech and single board computers and stuff like that. So if you're into that, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Until next time, every day is a great day to learn how to code and play retro video games.